Everybody?
Now this which one? That one? This got it. Ah, that one. Sorry. I'm thinking this.
Hello, Mama.
Hello.
Sanje choda soje
Sonam la janju badu dagni gapsuchi dagi chanyin jiben sokam jola banja sangye chupar sho
Sanje choda
enchoran sogi chonam la janju badu dagni gapsuchi dagi chanyin jiben sokam jola banja sangye chupar sho
Sanje choda soje
Janju badu dagni gapsuchi dagi chanyin jiben sokam jola banja sangye chupar sho.
This door close better. Thank you. Lock no need, maybe. Jama compose. Tayanta gade para som
gate body
so Tayanta gade
para
som gade body so Tayanta gade para som gade
body so
올라서다 심지어 탐제가도 통잘라나 마치고 산제에 고마를 뭐지 진행이 또 봤자 뒤에서도 안 장주선 말라와 나 추치도 나서 나와라 신고를 심벌을 틀고 틀을 되지쇼 많어 가지고 아니 값을 봐봐대다 같이 계속 좀 보시 원래 제 준주고 전에 제시 준비님이 했었죠.
And so we begin, of course, by setting our motivation to do whatever we possibly can to attain the peerless state of enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. In order to do that, of course, we understand that we need to really have a great understanding of all the trainings on that path. To gain that training accurately, we need to be able to rely on an unmistaken text, the source of those teachings. And so it is with this in mind that we are here this morning to hear some teaching from the Bodhisattva's way of life, such a text as composed by the great master Shantideva.
가소라 다간제 꿀을 주고 몸을 소와시 샤지 차니차 아니 예산에 예냠자가 되는 류지 가서 뒤세가 놓쳤나 꿀을 주고 몸을 도쳤어 어디에 집에 무슨 바거라요 삼사초 어디에 공부자
And as we always do, we set up at the outset the merit field. The merit field, which is dominated by, in fact, our own root guru, who is in the aspect of the figure of Shakyamuni Buddha. The Shakyamuni Buddha is seated in the Vajra posture. He's wearing the saffron robes. He has one hand in the right hand in the earth-touching mudra, and the left hand in the meditative equipoise mudra, holding an alms bowl filled with nectar. And he is and we feel that he is actually spirit, absolutely really there.
아니 되는 랑게 타고도야 아니 랑게 아니 체디에 파만네 제베 아니 지금 년이 돌아서 와 다가는 시기 밤에 심지 다가는 시기 랑게 레게 온게 대토네 랑기 보미가 랑토네 대기 보미가 괜히 담에가 자스겠네 제베 아니 지 가서들 감성 좋아리 두고 심지 탐 제베 마상만 매봐요 삼성 공부차
And likewise, we see that we are surrounded by all kind mother sentient beings, from our parents and our friends to those who are neutral to us, those who we have a bad connection with and who have a bad connection with us, who we might label as an enemy. Indeed, all of the residents of the 6 realms of cyclic existence are present without anybody missing, anybody left out.
그렇죠. 아니 되네 랑게 되나 세대에 라마 투베 온보티 지고 온가버 점바 아모버 투가 홍고 이게 숨지 세다 tuga hunle an wese padu meba tune shingramja nebe ishiba onlata cheba chentana ishiba de lama tuba ngbe naba chentana ti onle ongo chu lama cheza mikiwe ujendile chbo tena ngosuma khora yu samsa kombacha.
And then bringing our focus again to rest on the figure of the merit field in front, we see that the Buddha is marked at the crown by a syllable Om, at the throat by an A, and at the heart by a Hung syllable. From that Hung syllable at the heart, light rays emanate, and they go out into the pure realms, inviting back the wisdom beings and the empowering deities. The wisdom beings dissolve into the central figure, and the empowering deities confer the nectar of empowerment, some of which overflows at the crown, spontaneously producing the figure of Akshobhya. And again, we can bring ourselves mind to recognize that this is actually happening. This is actually there in the space in front.
Motivation. And be randa tago na mage semje tam chala and be tu sewe kone ma and chige kusu to chingi lap tegench. Randa tago na mage semje tamje ja and chige kaso de kaso le ta kanje che riru sosu do nyoshi ba kani bala namba ngaraso bine shi jan namju yeteke. And check it and lama to be on Kuso to be and then ship and tell a town at our Egypt, Mondo with Tabala so what in the compassion.
And that we also understand that the figure of Shakyamuni Buddha is looking upon us and all of the residents of the 6 realms of existence with this sense of love. We feel this love like a blessing from the figure of the enlightened being, and considering that in all of the beings in the 6 realms of existence, though experiencing the sufferings relative to where they are able to understand their situation now, their reality now, with a human understanding, human intelligence. And so they're able to have an appreciation like we are of the wonderful qualities of enlightenment. And from that appreciation arises the faith of aspiration and the pure faith and the faith of conviction.
What is compassion? And then what is what that the lesson compassion channel that can change Kosore. That the leg Kasote. The compassion and then Anichi Kasoleta can judge Sanjegi and Kuson to be Yunde Jen and it was Kaso Kuson to be Yunde and Ranchi Batamjela Java, Chanchiba de Tabletova, Kula Tujiba Nirima Bachuba, Panda Mata Tamjago turns again. Rangitondo, Marav Semja Tamjago, Tuke, Semja Tamjago, Lamla, Ketchamason of Lamla Lapa. And Talmo was of a Sanchez again, but what did the compassion? And the same jet that Rana Soso to me Nashibatilla and Mr. Nichiki. And the dog comes again to make you that Java Chana Chimura, Java Chuchi, Java Short, Java Target, that Chen of Lamaturia will be chinging to swim. Says Ningu, Juliet, what the combatant shed.
And so we continue then with this appreciation of the qualities of the Buddha's body, speech, and mind, the qualities that are kind of associated with enlightenment, of really having an understanding of no fear of suffering in relation to themselves, no fear of suffering in relation to others, working for the benefit of all with great compassion and without any bias whatsoever, and works to benefit others without any thought of receiving benefit in return. And that this is compounded, or is kind of added to as well, augmented by the Buddha's dedication to, the generation of the state of the mind of enlightenment at the outset, totally focused on the benefit to all sentient beings, and then proceeding on the path, generating all the causes, again with that singular focus on benefiting all sentient beings, and then ultimately attaining full and complete enlightenment, still with that passionate motivation to benefit all sentient beings. And that we kind of like in taking kind of in a way a cue from understanding that, looking upon all sentient beings and getting a sense of their suffering and finding that unbearable, we start to generate this sense of compassion, wanting to really do something about it, and thinking how wonderful it would be if all sentient beings could be free of suffering and its causes. May that be the case. May I be the one to do that. Oh, Guru deity, please bless me to be able to make this so.
어떤 공부하시는 다 간제 오다 어떤 공부하시는 다 다리 아니 지금 말아서 밀리톱 되거든 된저고 밀리톱 다 고쳐봐지 지금 아 고쳐봐 제스근데 다 가르스나 오다 제 심제 탐제거도 산제 공부도 니에티 산제 공부도 니는 심제 나가다 타이가 심제 탐제를 펴봐 줍투바 중앙에 규지 줍투바 이나 오 다들 또한테 덤바차고 띠르투바 지금 다 에네 디체도 에네 주주고 슝디 디체도 에네 계속 줘봐라 라고도 계속 줘봐라 봐라 계속 줘봐 신고도 안디자 에네 주주고 슝디 얘기 삼성 어떤 공부하지.
So then from our point of view is to kind of bring to kind of focus to say, okay, where do I sit within all this? I have attained a precious human rebirth, just to remind ourselves again that we're in the kind of pole position, as it were, to kind of really do something really powerful with this, a precious human rebirth. And essentially, we have to make this life meaningful. And how do we make this life meaningful? We make it by really dedicating towards the benefit for all sentient beings, and in any way we can to get closer to that state of enlightenment from which we can really most efficiently benefit sentient beings. And so it's kind of, therefore, I will kind of really train in the trainings of the child of a conqueror, as I say. I will gain that understanding of those trainings through listening to a talk from the Bodhisattva's way of life today.
다 단다데 지다 가서 지가서도 로종고 숑디게데 조 말아서 그 규도의 체도 인바 인상 아니 규대답게 숨고요래 아니 하도도 아니 장주가 sem마자와 개와 권에 권도 배치도 아 전대가 난게야 지금 납자 망보지 야 지가서다 체도 제 뒤에 조데 아니 랍도 중앙 인상 랍도 중앙다 되네 로다 랍도 중앙다 되네 아니 용대지 망보지 용대기도 와 다 가이나 메나 랍도 중앙 인나다 메나다 가이나 메나 무슨 셈도 요바인사 아니 셈도 다게 아니 지금 답지 아니 초간전에 아니 렉처 렌투바 제트 다 개치 모르와 어디서
And so here, just to kind of really categorize this text, the Bodhisattva's way of life is a mind training text. And as such, we must not lose focus of what the main purpose of mind training texts are. That is to create the causes, to generate the causes for enlightenment, to generate the mind of enlightenment itself, and then to increase it more and more and more. And so in this particular category, in the context here, of course, this whole composition of the Bodhisattva's way of life was focused on novice, renunciates, and that and the kind of like in this case here, that the language used is kind of really relevant to its time and to the audience that it was aimed at. So, but nevertheless, we must approach it in the context of really wanting to discipline the mind, to really subdue the unhealthy aspects of our mind and mental thinking. And so this is the focus that we should have when we listen to teachings from it. Yes, and so the kind of behaviors of body and speech are the kind of a central focus for renunciation, for renunciates. for novices, for those who have taken robes and so on, to really kind of discipline their own behavior in a very kind of particular way.
용도다 이내야 다 랍도 중앙 멤버 이내야 김바 이내야 다 간제저 룡하게 줘봐디 갈라 간자저 도마도라 데레데네 녀모게 뭐 중국도 다 데네 랍잘레 뭐 중국도 와.
And so it's kind of like it's even having said that, however, it's very clear that for lay people that if they're not careful around their behaviors of body and speech, that you're going to open the door to many mental afflictions. And so therefore there's a lot of relevancy in the teachings here too, as related to novices and renunciates. Chokran gyatang somjusochik. Wogichik again like so they sache somba go somgi le chewa chavala kebala chavala som.
What the lecture? Digital. And how don't that logic was soon day, that's down to Gasole, Chigatola, that Tawachimbu, Chen, and Legend, Simja Tamjaka, Saja Goma to Benchila, that logic was soon did it never Yenata, and the Chig Namne touch by Yoma do it. Namne Gozu Mother, June, and Gasole, that Bala Namsalaya Tata Yomado, Tatebu to Java Yomado, that is a logical show the Geshe Shuchatwa. That is a mother, chicken necker with the water against Chashawa in Bayinea. City there was some dogan Shimana, logical show the Lish Mabayina, the Lish Namlet Jail, Beju Jamadan, Kotu in a Gange Mutuni Yon Dh. How do the Samotana to a Gange Mamboja and Gange Chunjunji and Chimbosu. Chimbote any better Mutuna Gange Yong and YouTube Yon take it to Hata, Lojungo Shung, Dendeji Namlen Jetova in a Setila in a and a Gange shoes in your Deutsch. Because a Gange Soyaganga Chig Nomo on the Sogu and Lojungo shoot by Nomola Capitanga that Metumir also Jedwa. Ruan, Tatambo was a Tony Tobe Shara Rangula de Jamdi Janju Sem Rangula Tenada, Calcaza Lela the Chimber. That they made in Nazo let and go a chick. Njoya, Tata Kematu. Tony Tobe Shara will load that in its Hawajame, Janju Sem load that in its Hawajame chicken. That Dungen Mutuni Yon Tigre, Cassan also caught Mama and call a court deva Yenza, and Dungen not so what Yon did that. Dunga de la Tonne Jenna Dunga di Dunga Chetomando at Mahomba Dunga Saba Masa, that Lojungo Shung did it, Yamachi man, Tameting Jeto. A little Sanja, Sanja, you do it a pasho, City, Negage, and Law Papa Joella, Lojungo Shung did it, Yamachi man, Tameting Jeto.
And so when we approach mind training texts, we must understand that they're absolutely essential on the path to enlightenment. And without are able to integrate kind of like the import of these mind training texts, there is no possibility of being able to complete the path, complete the training to attain enlightenment. No result, as it were, of enlightenment. And so it's kind of like extremely important that when we talk about the ultimate results, they really are based on our capacity, and not only to understand the content of mind training texts, but to put them into practice, to integrate them into our lives. But not only that, it's very, very clear as well to, to whatever degree we are able to integrate the mind training teachings here. To that degree also, we are ameliorating the sufferings of this life to a great extent as well. I think this can be understood very, very clearly. And so, when we have problems, we can understand that without any mind training approach to those problems, they often increase and become, overwhelming. But with the capacity to think in skillful ways, which is the basis of mind training, we can reduce the impact of those inevitable problems and sufferings and ultimately to prevent them from arising in the first place. And so, because of course mind training opposes mental affliction, and we know that mental affliction is what causes the problems and suffering. And so it's kind of like here, it's getting to the very heart of the issue. And so it's so important and extremely important for us in this state of kind of being beginners, without having generated the mind of enlightenment and the correct view of emptiness and so on, and renunciation. Like when we have very refined understandings and realizations of these particular noble qualities, then the importance of mind training is probably reduced, because we have in many kind of like skills to be able to combat them, the mental afflictions. But at this stage, when we don't have really a stable renunciation, a very refined understanding of the mind of enlightened, or indeed an understanding of the correct view of emptiness, then we're going to, really, meet with the inevitable sufferings of cyclic existence. And if we haven't got mind training skills, those sufferings will increase more and more and more. So we need mind training. We can't do without it. It is that which reduces the sufferings that we meet in this life. And it is that which can reduce the instance of suffering for us in future lives.
용거와 어떤데 된제들의 공부시에 원들자 제가 같이 잠을 쉬거나 숨바 고숨기에서 고숨지 레제베 자와라 캡을 자와 숨전에 다가 정말아도 지금 가서다 레녀바사에다 레상보사에 생겼대 아니 용사 거도 고숨들다 류가 이숨들도 아니 고숨기에서 레다 즉 배주 당다 제라 아니 캡을 자와라 숨자 마외서 지다 자와 다외서 지다 자와 아니 개vel래 바시트 보다자 바시트 당어서 가서 개vel래 바시다 자와 자오스이다 개vel래 장장 주바 개vel 강가 개vel래 수초 초수 줘야라 배수 치고 해서 어떨지.
So the reason for setting up a teaching like this is to understand, the qualities of mind training, and then through this to be a logical sort of consequence of gaining a good understanding of mind training is that we develop a great sense of joy or enthusiasm for not only learning about it, but also integrating it into our lives. And so this is kind of like we should have this sense of excitement, anticipation, delight in wanting to know how we can make these mind training tips as part of our everyday existence. And so therefore that we act in harmony with what is explained in the texts. And so it's very, very good. Anyway, we continue on from where we left off, and we're at a third outline, which is described as how we become expert on all of the actions of our body, speech, and mind, the three doors of our existence, the body, speech, and mind. And so here it's kind of like all of the actions that we do are inevitably that of body, speech, or mind, whether they are good or bad. These are called the three doors of action. And so it's kind of saying, here we need to look at this carefully to see how exactly we should behave with each in turn. And so here it has the subheadings of what to do when we speak, and what to do when we look or regard another sentient being, and then how we can dedicate ourselves to doing only a virtue, kind of really refining all of our actions into only virtuous actions.
다 당보들 마외서 지다 차와서 자와래 만나 이페 저와다 된세 이도 공와다 안 가서 차다 시당 빠와다 잠시 remember 마와 자시
So the first of these subheadings is how we should, what should we do, what kind of attitude to take when we speak. And this is verse number 79, which states, when talking, I should speak from my heart and on what is relevant, making the meaning clear and the speech pleasing. I should not speak out of desire or hatred, but in gentle tones and in moderation.
다 간자 cousin 쇼나 시제 다 간자 게 치슈데 심제스데 게 첨보세 심제스 자첨보세 랑레 셴게 쳐와 쓰근지는 다 되게 용티기로 다 가서나 랑게 셈 딩네 아니 심제스데 다 간자 이 신기 노블에 하가지 로중 대수나 소안에 신전 이 신기 노블에 하가 될 구바다 제와다 대수 여와이나 디 아니 뷰다고 지게 도와이나 아니 소수게 디님도 계제 셰드 이내에 지게 가서도 대화 제도 이내 가지토네 아니 콜지 가서래 지게 가서래 펜베셈베 군의 랑도 아니 코디게 대 랑슈고 용대지와 다 디메바 제바이나 아니 지게 젠센더 차도다 나게다 되게 상황도 치면 코디게 용두고 말와 디저 가서 변에 군대 명아 등구 돈에 쇼도 마셰 딘데 진소 마셰와 딘데와 진소스 레온도 아니고 이왕의 장바시 랭고로 와 다데 마셰 딘데와 진소에 딘데시 레온도 다 딘데 딘쳐보시 될 진소가 실레도 아니 셈제 수임바인데 세디 파마사 말이 세디가 소소 가서 타입에 맞게 셈제 탐제 안베 토마메바네 다 거저 지금 가서대 소소를 편토 되게 직다 자체부 인gen지 아니 소소 삼로 당시 뭐이나 뒤 내봐이나 내봐도 소소를 편마토 되게 지금 된되게 배 자체부자 하고 아니 라신게 들라 다 지금 가서대 뒤다 대화지도 아니 약부되게 용되게 와 다디 비다고 좀 마중 아니나 아니 되게 용해라 강에 제대로 와
So verses like this one, and indeed those that follow, are predicated upon really having a powerful attitude of affection towards all sentient beings as a basis of holding all sentient beings to be precious, as being far more important than oneself. So we have this automatic passion to want to help, to want to benefit, to want to relieve the suffering of, and to pay respect as a guarantee to all sentient beings. This is extremely important, and because if not, we all know too well that first impressions can always kind of fall into one of three categories, whether we're either feeling arrogant, as feeling better than, or competitive with, or jealous of another. This can happen so quickly and so completely. And so it's kind of like really important that we recall the training of the 7-point cause and effect instruction, where we begin by recalling that all sentient beings have been one's mother countless times over since beginningless time, how we want to remember the kindness of the mother and then want to repay that kindness. And those three initial causes lead to affectionate love for all sentient beings without exception. And again, it doesn't matter who they are. There should be no one that we cannot regard as having been a parent in a previous life. And therefore, we have this great debt of gratitude towards them. And this is very, very important. And even when we're kind of like in a state of illness ourselves, we shouldn't be overwhelmed by that, but think how this can be of benefit, how we can use our situation now to be of benefit to all sentient beings. Otherwise, we will be overwhelmed by our own suffering and so on.
지금 추리다 된데 통견의 야구 시고 차버렸대. 얘네 갑자기 가서 담다가 지금 롭종 제다다 롭종 저다 뭐 지금 컴피티션 젠도당 된데 그 톤에 야제 시당 게 도와. 젠도다 된데 그 톤에 저도 아니 되게 레그에 참 망보 좋아해라 또 시게 발제 요되는 거 와. 발제 요되는 거 와. 딱 젠도다 된데 멤버진네 펜베스베 톤에 벨로소소 저기 신유의 통계의 야제다 시안라 편바 주베치도 아니 저기 요바지 제왕도 그 젠도들 링크 말봐. 좋아다 같이 컴피티션스 그래. 와다 될레체. 다 된대 제왕도 아니 거기 가서래. 지금 영어로 그거 또 지금 영대 차되기도 와. 차되기도 와. 차되기도 와. 다 될래 이제 다들 지 가서래. 장조 선배 냠len 집에 가로 오다 젠섬 시간다 오던데다 거슬러다 구급되고 요 말이야. 그러다 간제 지금 다 야게 당야라 시야가 페버 주베쳐도 아니 투제들의 상고도 쓰래. 아니 야게 당했지. 디야 시야가 페버 주베쳐도 어디를 다 되는 인자다가 있는면은 지금 기부 시행다 마와나 다 길에 시야들의 중앙나 이 팝싱 아니 나치 제일 차베 아니 되게 돈다데서 콜라신 세부여 이동하신 아니 셀라 로라 바베 디한테 셀라 펜베쳐도 돼 아니 엔디야 아니 랑졸라 차 센졸라 다웨 세당 방웨더는 심지어 술레이나 펜버트베쳐도 안 시점신 아니 마뉴데 어코저 펜토이를 즉 쇠티보저 렘보치 양 계좌 망자네 망자네 야 나라도 레당보 인자 그 딱다지 펜토마도 대 다주데 아니 망뇨 전부 유되게 어디래 지다 셰라 아니 배준 지구래 숨도 와 배준 지구래스 다지 가서 샤라 폐체도 어디래 지 딱 이제 지금 샤라 폐셈 숙청보 주여봐 이나 야 마와 잠 마잠 쓰는데 책잠 마잠 깨자 말 다들 딜라야 아니 콜라를 가리 펜토아치아도 디 내장대 가르간사 심바체네 심베토네 아니 거다 간제 셀라 펜베체도 아니 갑다 뒤다 되게 대신에 되게 쳐버려도 와 되게 전 가제 펜토와 용해치 체체 다 간제 가사들라 펜베체도 삼로 땅에 얘는 아니 딜라 펜바 토시도 가르르샤 아니 소소 남주토나 삼로 땅에 아니 냠용도네 전 아니 딜라 펜토에 기지 셰치 더 랑기 케벤 주에도 말 가사 시사 계제디 시사 가사들라 아니 케벤 주에도 가시 가사데 감다 메베토는 가시 약슈리샤
So this kind of like really models the kind of qualities that one should try to include when speaking. And then here, when we talk about the, in terms of generating the mind of enlightenment, of wanting to increase our familiarity with the mind of enlightenment, it's very important that we don't have any inkling of kind of competition when we're speaking to others, whether we're trying to outdo somebody else or to appear, kind of like to want kind of the praise and so on of others. And so it's a very, very important thing to consider, because otherwise it becomes quite an obstacle to our progress. We can be, competitive with ourselves, wanting to increase how beneficial we speak and so on, and how we make our speech more beneficial. And so that's okay, but not with in any other sense to compete with another. And that's why we should really determine prior to opening our mouths that whatever we are going to say is purely focused on benefiting others. And so that's very, very important. We offer no opportunity for a mental affliction to sneak into our speech, because it can do so readily. And that we are kind of understand that there is absolutely no place for any sense of being competitive or arrogant in terms of speaking. And so very, very important that our only improvement, kind of competing with ourselves to improve, is the degree to which we are able to help others. This is extremely important. And as it says here, to really, when speaking with others, to speak from the heart, make sure that what we are saying is relevant, that is easily understood, that it is clearly stated, that it is pleasant to listen to, that we are not speaking from attachment to our own side, our own opinions, or aversion to the others' opinions, and that we are speaking gently and we are speaking concisely. Quite an important one. So as beginners, we can often overstate the issue and speak too much, and of course that is going to be less beneficial for the others. And so it's kind of like important to understand that whether we use, or speak gently or not, the fundamental point is that we are saying things in a way that are going to be beneficial, and the most beneficial that we can come up with. And that requires, of course, reflection, analysis on our own side, to really consider what the best approach is, and to understand the timing, that we try to get that right as well. In other words, always to be considering what is the best set of circumstances in which I should speak here, and how best should I use the words I have to best be able to help others and benefit others, and to make sure that there's absolutely nothing in it for myself.
and chicken special dana pen to sha yakshu kandre sha wada dige ani chige kasole ne chu dige de ani kasode shebe tone that is kasode zewa dang sherap niga gogodo ora sungde ge tone jogodo sungde ge tone.
And so here, we have to make sure that we're not speaking in terms of the outcome we want, or in the outcome we don't want. We're not looking at it in that context at all. We are simply analyzing to come up with the best words and the right timing for the situation at hand, for the being that we have in front of us, to see what is the best outcome we can have for them. And so therefore it's very clear, isn't it, that this kind of quality of speech, this high kind of bar that we're setting for speech, has to arise out of the combination, the combined integration of love and wisdom.
When sanje la pa chawa ina sanje ge anu chi kaso de che song ya kabla shen la pemba tube kala duje kam da tumba jana sungu do when sanje konge anu chi kaso de gari kengu yobati song ye memba che kembe yunde kan kemba chaza song ye memba che duje kam da tumba jana dele yimbaza anu dumda shi yong ye da 안 다가제 상하래야 아니 규제시 용해다 되게 내려서 용어 봐 정원의 당번에 라메데 좀 달라 찬자 탄주바 때나 되게 봐 이나야 뒤면바전 파족에 감다 tum바전에 탄주바 때와는 내가 편도 문도나 아니 저기 제자 모았던 도대배 따왔대 아니 되네야 샘sam배 따왔대 샘잡아 남편주고 요구도와 다가지 오마배를 남편주 요구도와 와다데 그 감다 tum바전에 대지 그 조다시도와 가서 파조다 팬토고 여행사 그 띵사부에는 팬토고 강사 때려야 팬토고면은 띵사부에는 팬토고도 야침부에는 팬토고도 다 코로나에 감도 tum바지 아니 팬토가 쏘고도 아니 된대 임바자 세와다 셰랍 니가 송대고 토는 거고도 세와 주고 그 당금도 셰랍 주고 그 당금도 다 되니 송들 제가 토는 용고도
So we take this, of course, purely from the example that the Buddha himself set when he was giving teachings, and you could see that he was extremely aware of speaking according to the dispositions of his listeners, and only so, and that never deviated from that. It wasn't any way the Buddha, wanted to show off his expertise in philosophy and so on. This was not the case. And this was particularly the case in speaking about the tenets, the 4 tenet positions, and he wasn't one to kind of like expound upon the prasangika madhyamika point of view to those who obviously weren't ready for it. And so he introduced the Vaivasika position, or the Satantrika position, or the mind-only or Chittamatran positions, and so on, according to the dispositions and the capacities of those who were listening to him. And so the Buddha was using here that combination, that kind of integration of wisdom and wisdom and love in speaking. And so we should do our best to emulate that practice as being the best practice. And so this is and so from our point of view, to come up with the words that are going to be most beneficial in this situation, in this context, and to make sure that our mind is infused with love and wisdom when we're delivering those words.
근데 인상 그 감도 매버 생각에 빼자친 버려 디 켈렘 베트나 디라 구숍 예베트나 제바이나 아니 배는 아주 점을링라 녀도 망보제 출루 돈에 연구를 출루 튼데 생각에 영토에 유견지 배나 산제게 아니 저기 최송단 딜라 때때 출루 튼데스데 영토에 가서 뒤제 감도 매버 면자와 있어 아니 뒤다 튼베게 아니 편도 적인 게 출루지 영초에 나와지 영초에 지그练不多
Therefore, it is obvious that the more we have an understanding of individual dispositions and aspirations and capacities, the more accurate we're going to be with the words that we use. And therefore, to gain that accuracy, we need to make a connection. This is something which is highly emphasized, and we can see in terms of what His Holiness often emphasizes is the religious harmony amongst the great religions of the world, to understand that these religions arose due to particular sets of dispositions and capacities of sentient beings who had that affinity with the viewpoints of those particular religions, and that's how they came about. So it's kind of something that is absolutely fundamental.
그래서 어느 곳이 가서도 지금 출루고 돈의 하모니 용투에 다가는 이제 미소소서 그냥 오프닝 민다와 소소 삼로단다 민다거든 전부는 난 요거만 못 좋은 되거라 되게 대 용처 감다 매번 민다거든 용처에 되거든 그 요거만 못 시에가 탑람제 대두가
We can see too that a lot the harmony of the world is dependent upon the capacity of beings to understand and accept different dispositions and capacities and so on, but also conflict when there is a disagreement and an unacceptance that you have all the conflict of the world, in fact, starts with that on a lack of acceptance of different dispositions and points of view and so on.
그래서 감다 매번 민자와 인사 아니 그런 게 아니 저게 삼륜내세 민자와 게 아니 소소 야보톤의 현재가 야보 마다 현재가 야보톤의 소소 야보 마다 근데 용도가 들려 때는 아니 지금 감다 매번 민자와 요배 좀 저게 들려 구바다 저와지 그 용사게 아니 가서 됐다 구급지도가 사자시도가 나 네가 건강 네 렉처르도가 네 학교에 돈 정말 있나 아니 가서 역자 그래서 뭐 여기 내주 투베터는 역사 매버서에 탑시지리도 감다 매버 온기 아니 들어 구바데 저와지 찍찍 감다 매버 뭐 투베터네 아니 찍찍 가서도 구바데 저와 용초야지
And so that because of the obviousness of the great variety of people's attitudes and thinking, dispositions, etc., that it really, we can see that, it can be the source of conflict, or with work, it can be the importance of reaching harmony in spite of difference. And so this is really the heart of the issue for us, in that we have to be able to develop a mindset that is capable of generating spontaneous respect and appreciation for all difference that is there, all difference of opinion, difference of disposition and personality, etc., etc., and that to see that as an opportunity, that the difference is taken for granted. That's real. And so it's important to develop a mindset that is able to absorb all that difference and still maintain in 100% respect and appreciation. And so this is extremely important for us to be able to recognize and to cultivate.
강가 네 출루도 투바 인고그스에 영화 콜라 요마레 강가 남바 인고서 영화 강가 출루시오 다 가리가리 말데 강가 영화 콜라 요마 소소 감다 미범이나 다가는 저 미소소 삼로단다 민다요 다 변에 들이가서 라와 예배 점쟁이 미소소 삼로단다 민다요 뭐 쉬우정 것도 아니 들라데는 참마장게 내수 뭐 정도도 다 네가 강가래 코란게 감다 투바 된데 저래서 들라 찍찍 구바서 네 감도 도마 감각을 지고로서 그 영화 거라 요 말에 코란 감도 도마 임바도 코란 예래 샤막 만사 샤막에 코란 감도 도마 임바 들라 구샵체 랑게 감도 도마 디 임바데 랑게 여바네 샤라야 근데 여바데 가서 예외게 다 톱당다 라와 여바데 구샵제나 아니 여러 망보지 매바차도 네 감도 도마데 약수이 감각 디너지 지고로서 아니 마자외면도 요 말로
And so we can see here that, to try to develop the world in the sense of everybody following the one religion, that everybody has to be Buddhist in order for me to be able to relate to them, is kind of like pointless. It's also impossible. And so it's something that will not happen. And that we see that people have varied ways of thinking, of being able to understand their reality, of their view of the world, is incredibly varied. And so it's kind of like, that's the given. The wonderful challenge and opportunity is that to develop respect for that difference, and to understand that people have a right to have a different view, that everybody has an equal right to the way in which they interpret their reality and their world. And so it's kind of like in no way that I can consider my way of thinking to be the best, and therefore everybody must adhere to that. That's called, a prelude to war. That's all that can come from that.
다 되는서 감다 매바 시베 돈에 아니 대다 투베 펜도 지에치 펜다 대다 투베 게제시 대다 투베 펜도 대다 투베 구샵 지에치 어들 용도도 어들 And
so therefore, it is a complex issue to be able to want to benefit those who have a different outlook to ourselves. They have a varied way of looking, dispositions and personalities and attitudes and so on. But that's the challenge. That's the beautiful challenge in saying, how is it that we can be of benefit to them? And that's, we should see it as an opportunity.
다 랑게 삼로 당당다 랑게 와서데 지금 지단데 아니 문에 전에 좀체도 뭐도 아니 소소 제바 지야래 미셔바 지금 저와 결합이 야고도 뭐도 어디 녀다래 소소 남주 당와제 아니 얘들 문에 전에 편도 유건 지자 매견이 소소 제바제 편도 두섬 아니 랑게 냠을래 아니 디토네 아니 셴바디 디 제월래마 디토네 아니 심제샤 강도도 편도잖아 디그와 어딘데
And so it comes down to as well, of course, that we are able to establish for ourselves that our own thinking is based on valid reasoning. This is absolutely key and essential. And so from that position, then, if we're able to speak from reason and that we have established that for ourselves, then we're halfway there to trying to be of benefit to others.
팬도 제네 녜디 야고에 라고 말해 미시베 딘데 지올라 소소데 아니 팬도 제바나 아니 미시바 야고에부터 하고 그러 와 소소 디 아니 소소 제다 셰데 야고 임바이나 아니 소소 데다 투바젤레 샬라 팬바토나 아니 녜디 야고에 라고 말해 아니 셴바가 연데 통나 아니 셴바게 야 디나시 제게 배준징에 연구로 와
And there's a good chance that if we are speaking in a beneficial way, if we're backing that up by acting in a beneficial way, then that will be seen by others for what it is, and that they will perhaps want to emulate what we are, the way we are speaking and the way we are acting. And there's no need for us to kind of point that out to them, you know, or to kind of consider ourselves as really, you know, cool and excellent human beings. That is not necessary.
어때? 딱 이제 가이나 단에 가서 배워봐대. 말로도 장주 선배 냠내 지금 심제 탐정도 산제 고바 돈도 이제 그래서 기부 시행라 아니 저 마외서 근데 제고래 아니 저 가서대 아니 저 가서대 아니 저 된데게 아니 돈다도 세부전에 시행라 팬토게 이동화 소거래 아니 디시에데 랑라 차과 시행라 차과 뭐지 가사들 시행 심제 탐정라 팬배체도 아니 와다고 팬배 삼바랑게 돈에 지고래서 아니 디에 지 가솔에 텔라 팬토에 시가제스 셰고도 대자면도 야 망다네 교용고레스 용다네 마당와데 용고로 와다 딱다지 셰도가 지고레스 다 랍자 중고도 어디를 다 돈다도 어디를 다 가서 배워대
And so the point here, of course, is quite eloquently pointed out in this particular verse in the context of developing the mind of enlightenment, the mind training text here. And so it's kind of like, yes, it's pointing out that when we speak to others, we make sure that we are honest. We're speaking from the heart. We're speaking to the point in a discussion, that we're relevant. That we are that what we are saying, the words that we are using are easy to understand, that the meaning is clear, that we have a very pleasant countenance when we're delivering what we say, that we have no attachment to our own opinion, just, you know, our aversion to the other's point of view, that completely is abandoned, that we are able to use the gentle words and be concise, but also, you know, not speaking too much is to be avoided, but also not speaking too little. Saying too little is going to make the point obscure. So concise means just using the right amount of words, and I think that gives us a very detailed approach to begin with in the context of being able to speak with others through a mind imbued with love and wisdom.
다 니와 따외서 지달 잡았어. 니와 가사 시에 투네. 아니 데다 저거 그 통에 가로 다 그래지고 그래서 가사 수통화 있네. 미자 말에 다 균루 양제는 수통화 있는 바이네야. 아니 자월래 미게 심제 따나야 대다 니를 때네다. 산년이도 주로셔. 장시 잠배 수기 따스.
The next outline, the second subheading here, is how we should look at or regard others, and that and this is important as well. And it's we should extend this beyond just other human beings, but all other beings, all animals as well. Verse number 80. Verse number 80 says, "When beholding someone with my eyes, thinking, I shall fully awaken through depending upon this being, I should look at him or her with an open heart and love."
지금 남준도 다 지금 도나 대나 사나 투나 다 신제 탐제도 산제 고마 두기 쓰긴 다 된데게 냠내 지금 제바이나 다 간자 심제 수통화 이바이네야 통화다 퇴바다 다 로아 다 근데 제바네 심제 수고 돈을 셰고 요바 돈다지 돈달 셰고 요바는 수다 이바다 디다 조위나 디 돈달 셰고 요나데 아니 디 돈다게 아니 괜찮죠 고아 이바네 심제 수요나 대다 진체가 막게 이바다 남자 차트고 지고 요로 진짜가 막인데 참되는데 아니 심제 미게 심제 샬라 따와 이네다 심제 샬게 돈 민그르스 고와 이네다 다 현실에 세계유마 이네다 다 근데 지마이나 야 심제 대다 니라데 심제 딜라데네 아니 다 조베 산제 공반이도 주로스 산제 공반이도 산제 공바토를 다 심제 딜라데네 아니 죽고야지 줄고 요바지 다 대해서 맞서 사치고 싶어 차대기도 와 주로셔 아니 삼배 대신 아니 심제되게 딘텐 다 지금 코알라 네베린라 얘네 랑기 아니 디지 건가 심제 딜라데 사예 통예 고예 대사 아니 민 롭종 딱 강가 딜라데는 용대지 그러다 쇼가 야랑만에 관다 마마니에 보다 사예 통예 나 심제 딜라데는 소랑 주거는 가 용하면 도如果用我们多，啥通啥대에 당에 뭐다 강가 심제신 거 진라 때는 소고고 또. 안 다가는 신거다. 개월에 대다 파다 맞아서 심제신 거 진라 때는 소고고 또 하다가지. 그러와. 다가는 신다 수편도 와서 말에. 산제 고마 토발라 다간제 코아나 좀 산제 고바 토발라 장주고 셈겨 장주고 셈제라 때는 깨고고 또. 셈제면은 장주고 셈겨 발라 장주가 셈 개발 학상 거고도 학상 개발은 닝제 거고도 닝제 개발은 셈제 셰 동네 나설 미수바 거고도 다 동네에 나가 셈제도 배면서 자치 버려도 그래도 다 들려드는 닝제 개안 들려드는 학상 개 되는 장주가 셈 개를 안 나가는 제 장주가 셈 개와 상의 편도고 뭐도 진서 파제도 람랍 거고도 람랍랍 집어 당사 유 거고도 셈제면은 집어 당사 유요 말이야 로 아니 추림 송고도 셈제면은 다 제네 시다 제발라 돈에 추림 송고도 셈제 매발라 추림 송에 요 말이야 그래도 다는 이제 서바 공고도 다 서바 검세도 다 서발라 리 가서다 다 동에 달래 서바 늦을 진만에 서바 아니 철랑게 지금 서발라 서바 요래 다 발라도 동에 달래 그 서바 서로제 생각 내밖에 그 매바이나 동에 달래 그 서바 게임도 아니 주 팬도와 맞아 네게 봐대 팬토베 줄라 산제 줄라 줘대 다 된데 사치고 쉬우진 게지 사치고 쉬우진 게지 된데 그 로라 차서나 다 디디테네 아니 잠에 추기 따와서 왔다 소소게 배 된데 그 된치고 인게들 아니 랑게 미다다데 구바치다데 다 현대 민주화 정부로 와 현대 민주화 정부로 와다 대마음에 저거 지금 소소 마가오서 컨트롤을 지켜서나 아니 거미다다 야고 요말에 어디 가서 그 연대 전통어 말을 꽤 빠시 통고요. 다 연대 공부시 통소나 아니 딜라티 미다다다 아니 되게 됩니다 정도로다.
And so this is a beautiful verse where we look at how we should regard them physically when we look at or see other sentient beings, and to kind of look at, as it says in the verse here, that immediately the thought spontaneously arises, saying, based on this sentient being. I can create the cause to attain a full and complete enlightenment. And therefore, they are, something who, a being who is incredibly kind. And my job is to repay the kindness in this instance. And so that means that it's kind of an automatic love that is generated. That's the kind of like moment of really the arisal of love arising just by seeing that other sentient being. And again, this is going beyond just human beings, but all sentient beings. And that, again, we kind of like really cultivate this attitude based upon a really profound understanding of the position of all other sentient beings in our job or our goal of wanting to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings, and saying that they are absolutely priceless, precious, that there is no progress for me on the path to the state of enlightenment without it being based on sentient beings. And so therefore, for everything I do, for what I eat, what I drink, what I wear, the house I have, the car I drive, the job I have, the reputation I have, everything I can possibly think of arises in dependence upon the kindness of other sentient beings. And this is something that we should bring to mind in every instant of our day, as much as we possibly can, and to kind of like really see that everything that I appreciate in my life, that keeps me going, arises in dependence upon all other sentient beings, all kind mother sentient beings. And so it is also this kindness of all sentient beings is, of course, absolutely essential to the attainment of enlightenment. We know that because the generation of the mind of enlightenment itself, the main cause for enlightenment, arises in dependence upon our appreciation of sentient beings. That the cause for the mind of enlightenment, great compassion, is focused on the suffering of sentient beings. And from the causes of that being affectionate love and going down through the reflecting on the wish to repay the kindness to kind mother sentient beings. Why? Because we remember that kindness of all mother sentient beings. Why? Because we have established that all sentient beings have been our mothers countless times since beginningless time. And so they are absolutely there at the very inception of our mind training. And that this means then that we cannot make any step forward without this kind of in-depth appreciation of how precious all sentient beings are. And indeed, going beyond that, when we generate the mind of enlightenment, even when we embark on the 6 perfections of generating the perfection of generosity, if we have no one to give to, how can we practice generosity? How can we perfect that? And maintaining our own perfection of ethical conduct is reliant upon how our behavior relates to all other sentient beings. Patience is even more telling, in that we have to actually have people harming us, that pressing our buttons to generate the perfection of patience. And so even in those who are not beneficial to us, but who even harm us, we can see how precious they are on the path to enlightenment, and that we can't do without sentient beings, and so on, all the way through the 6 perfections. And so here we need to reflect on this again and again and again, and to kind of really see how all sentient beings are the cause for us to attain enlightenment. And how is it then that we should respond to that? Is the real crux of the issue for ourselves, to kind of see that if we are angry, or we see other beings as being angry towards us, or of having a sour face when we're in their company, and we judge, make past the judgment there, that means we're not thinking properly on this situation. We're not seeing the opportunity in that situation. And so it's really, really important we can't do enough of reflecting on how precious, essential, and important sentient beings are on this path to enlightenment.
Pena sanje marado lam tengitua. Lam tengitua. Ta lam dubia de la ta semje medu mirwa redua. Rua. Lam dubia la ta kaja lam gyula keba chevala ta semje ge an dilla tene yongu tua. Dilla tene yongu tua. An daga neshe rangi samlo tangda shimba ina. Samlo tangda shimba ina ta pen towa ta sozo pen towa ibada shemoche. Never did any pentoy gula drote to that same gente, but Shanda Minja. Rua. That's also some tang shimbaina. That's some tang machina, pentova de never good. That was some tang machina could don't. That's some tang shibana, pemba de pembachawa mase. Never de pembegula good to that same gente condition. But the Shanda Minja no such much. 다 디임바도 못해বে 돈에 아니 심지어 수토와이나 야 어다 지금 사체보다 그거 용하지 중화이나 아니 들라 내 계획을 삼는 용모도 용삼에게 저래도 왔다.
So the Buddha teaches us or shows us the path, but in really integrating that path into our lives, in establishing that path, in practicing that path, sentient beings are absolutely essential. They cannot be done without. It is just the facts of the matter, the plain facts of the matter. And that really our kind of like our thinking then has to reflect how essential the sentient beings are to every step I take on the path to enlightenment. And so it goes without saying that those sentient beings who are of benefit to us and who have benefit to that path, we offer every help, benefit, respect, appreciation, and so on. But equally so, even more so, that those sentient beings who harm us, who create obstacles to us, we should see them as being more extraordinarily beneficial to our path, because again, they help us. If we have the right way of thinking about it, they are even more beneficial to us. And this is something that we must really establish again. And so as it says in the mind training, that sentient beings are more precious than even a wish-fulfilling gem. And so this is, see how precious they are. If our first thought on encountering any sentient being is really understanding just how exquisitely beneficial and amazing and beneficial they are, then there is no chance, is there, of mental affliction arising in relation to them.
Rota ali ngozo le tangbo ala chigi tongni tobe sherap ta de mebe kadala ta nyomo ke go mangbo jiyo ta de je samlo tang to na nyomo go mangbo ke de sonom lap chbo zo tu ye ani godi ine donda te ba cha kasra ngozo gaba dowa ine ani chigi pena chamjang dowa ine ta legal dowa imba ine ta ani shopping center na lo la shopping la chimba na gaba dowa ne semje tu ong do wa semjes tuong ta su ine tuong wa ta godu ine ani che tela tene ani che sanje goma ke togu yoba ta ani this be za chimbo yimba da di dinla tene ta ga je kaso de khol nebe rile ine ta ani thaba da thamje kebe duwe kable yimba ta dige gangal medu mirwa chibe de za chimbo jing gurwa ta ani ngoshinge yoba di ge chimbo mare ko semdine semda nyebu jong de gwa ani kabato na kibu yorwa rangi sanji gyuji kabadduna 통선은 기분이와 다 강가 콘도 사사도 통선 소소 녀몽 거는 강가 콘도 사사다 녀몽 계사 gy었다는 kabadduna 기분이요 말와 다 대화라나 메바 산지 규기 아니 딜라디나 산지 대부 산지 친구도 삼사처럼 자주 보셔 쓴다 여보 준 거로 와 shopping la doga ina da chamjang doga ina da gabachimba ina sutonga ina sosoge 아니 제가 랑게 가서 장바데 닝제 공부해줘야 산제가 아니 산제가 람녀도 줘야 쭉 거주 있는 좀 되고 있나다 좁토에 준 것도 와 다들 짜치고 저래도
So therefore, we really can see how if we have this very positive attitude already established for all sentient beings without exception, it automatically closes so many doors to mental affliction. This is one great benefit of it. And that it, of course, is doing the other job of establishing the causes for the state of enlightenment, And especially as this stage, when we are at that beginner stage with very coarse minds, and we haven't got yet the direct realization of emptiness, which of course can, really close the door to mental affliction. Here, we need these attitudes as well to avoid mental affliction taking over. And also, of course, if we are being able to live our days with this mental attitude, it makes every moment so meaningful. And this is really whether we are, going for a walk, or we are going to work, or we're going shopping. Regardless, we are all going to meet. It's inevitable that we will meet with sentient being of one type or another. And so whenever we meet them, we have this automatic thought of how amazingly precious they are, how kind they are, how I need to repay that gratitude that I've experienced, for so long, over countless eons and so on. And that they, on the basis, like it says in the verse, that I can, on that basis, I can generate the causes to attain enlightenment itself. If we have that recognition, if we truly have that recognition, it does two things. It must give us this beautiful, warm sense of closeness to that sentient being. And it also brings tremendous happiness, because we realize that we are creating the causes of enlightenment on the basis of this sentient being. Every opportunity we are taking like that is creating the cause to attain enlightenment. And so that's surely a better proposition than, the anger that we feel when we meet with an unpleasant sentient being. That we can't ever categorize that as something beneficial or helpful to us, surely. And so it's kind of important that this sense of using every interaction we have with whatever sentient being, whenever, to increase our love, to increase our compassion, is just a beautiful way to live.
ane semjela ne magubaja tongju chigo yores ane sanje kuma tubala ane niga gyunya bacha degi dos ane de gari chulu resta suye juba wada kanja jige o dige de kanga ta ngara tula ta zugu tunu sungu duwa ta dige kanga nyeba chene ane de isa katu ine semjes katu ine da jiga so de so legal draw ine da kaba draw ine semjes de katu ine tongde chi yorba ane gugab de semtu wada 가두이네다 자청보 임바 지토나 아니 디 연대의 렌트고도 와 자청보 임바 맞으나 디 연대 냠 레마도 와자 아니 녀몽을 줄로 줘지기도 와
And so it's extremely important, isn't it, then to understand that sentient beings are precious, that because they bring us closer to enlightenment, and because of that we feel closer to those sentient beings, and that this is called really, as it says, taking the essence of every opportunity we have when we meet with any sentient being, to have that to the forefront of our minds, how precious this sentient being is, how wonderful this sentient being is, how what a great opportunity this sentient being is, from our point of view, to give every kind of sense of respect to sentient beings. And that it's worthwhile here recalling another verse from the Bodhisattva's Way of Life, where Master Shantideva states, we are ready to offer respect and appreciation to the Buddha, but so often the case that we hold back that respect and we look down on the sentient beings and saying, look at the difference here. And he asks, what kind of spiritual tradition is that? So we must understand that both the Buddha and sentient beings are equally precious in terms of our being able to attain that state of enlightenment. And so it's kind of like also, we have to, we know so well that if we don't have that overwhelming, all-encompassing mind of appreciation for all sentient beings, that it's often replaced, by a mental affliction when we come to meet others in that judgmental pose.
Sanje singde da 지금 저 sanje yuende de ane sanje 그 송된줄 때네 뭐저 sanje 스게 지금 자침보다 개침보 임바다 당을 또 발라나 임바들인데 이내 남주는 거좀 미진하라 자 소소 삼로 단조고네 대화지 샤고거다 이내 무슨 거라 지금 미드 미투하는시 제게 무도와 다 심지어서 뒤균는 거저 대화 샤대 자들도 다들 삼사지 맞는 뺏는 도와 뺏는 도와 좋아.
So it's easy for us, in a way, when we have some understanding of the quality of enlightenment, to develop that very powerful appreciation and a respect for, and even love for, the Buddha and the enlightened beings. But usually it's the case, isn't it, that in our life, when we meet other sentient beings, and of course, even if we meet those we have a good connection with, when we don't have that level of appreciation, of really understanding just how precious they are, that there's a great danger of a mental affliction, getting a run in that particular meeting with that sentient being.
그런 거를 저 남지 밑에와 야부 요거죠. 그런 게 소소로 편도체, 로바체, 야부죠. 어디 야부래 자식을 야부래 된거 열때 된거를 대상게 거다 쉬우지 개쳐보지 리그면도 와. 다 대상 뭐지 개쳐. 내내지라 개쳐보스는. 다 타보다 담제 겸에 교래스레도 다 쉬워 자쳐볼 리그도 와. 제 심지어 탐제라 들으실래면 오늘따라 타보다 담제 겸에 된데 얘기인지 뭐 이나 다들 개쳐보 간제래. 그 칼라 차직니 때 야고이 안데발라 지금 가서래 지금 소소를 계좌 야고시야 소소로 과 체제로 과 저와서 야고이서 뒤 야고래 이나다 타바도 담지 좀 증거해서 딱 타바도 담지 문에 되겠지 뭐 이나 안데 계지 뭐 가졌으래 아니 딜라 때데 아니 뒷문에 전에 타바도 담지 좀 되겠지 뭐 이나 아니 타바도 담지 좀 증긴기 아니 기부대 딱 짜지 뭐 가졌래 다가서 카삼이는 아니 카삼 거래 아니 쉬고 좋아요 말와 다셈 딩네 타바다 탐제 잡았던 거지 여봐이나 아니 또 주가르샤 아니 딜라 때는 아니 심제서 짜지 먹어서 자기도 걸레 두에 지래도 와
And so it's normally the case, isn't it, that when we have a good connection with somebody, that they have done something good for us, they have done us a favor, or we have indeed done them a favor, and so on, and we have this sense of appreciation. We have even a sense of their importance to us in our lives. But let's look at it in a much bigger context, that how about those sentient beings who have the potential, from our point of view, to present us with the causes to attain liberation and the omniscient state of enlightenment. I mean, how important is that? How much more important is that? And that indeed, and that is so important for us, you know, and that goes beyond just a mere kind of appreciation for somebody maybe who invites us out for a meal, and you know, very kind. We consider them very kind. We have a lovely conversation. You know, kind of like all on the same page as were, and we have this sense of real appreciation for them. But again, if we kind of use that situation to develop the causes for liberation and the omniscient states of enlightenment in dependence upon that sentient being, how much more precious is that particular occasion? How much more important is that sentient being to us? This is something that we need to consider.
ninja semje cende mangbuji da de pumbu becho cende deda go zobe semje cende kat 중앙 여바 이나 deda 탄데 리두스도 동을 타데 아니 된저고 리데니 태워치베 계획신에 전 사줄 랑아 림로 산제 고마 토바쇼 그도 있는 전토가 전 또 뭐잖아 야마 도그래 뭐저 이 통고도 어디 두저레 샤서 초카야 매바데 많이 봐죠 그때 저 통화이네 삼라데 저 남자 두저 통화다 남자 어머니 배모스 칸을 리에 아니 대다가는 지금 뭐하대 제도는 아니 지금 가서대 지 가서래 디게데다 돈에 지금 겨울인데 감소 도와리도 뒤 쪽에다 심지어 천대 가서 요바 대다 진짜 감소 도와리도 가봤겠네 리주스 동을 타대 아니 지 가서대 지 가서 태화점이 계획 신이되제 사주 랑을 산제 고마 토리 용마 쇼스파 뭐하지 다들 국가 야고도 왔다 디게데 뭔가 최주에 튕겨를 배주 땅도나 아니 뒤뒤뒤가 소설 펜토스와 어떻게 될지 그 펜데레 통화이네 남자 모아몰람지 그러와 다른 이제 리다다 자지우르서 갱부를 갈 통화이네 어다 되게 된저 막은 선제 다 닌제 다 지금 둔줄이 겨울인데요 다 뒤집에 심제 아니 다 도와리도 동네에 가봤잖아 대 동네에 타대 아니 대적으로 타바치고 계획신이 되자 사주랑을 산적 고마 토바쇼 어머니 빼면서 많이 책임만 당 토바지나 안데가 쳐주에 네가 랑데 대화지 시작이도 마음발로 소소 교라지 가서 똑바로 깨는 산적 고마 토바나 디스임제들 편바 주의기 아니 가서 대화지 샤투로 와 샤도로 왔다 디안전에 받자 많이 책임만 내봐 책임 배저 고매 소매 남매 소리 많이 so beautiful 드레자 많이 받잖아 아니 딜라 때는 소소가 가서 잠바데 닝제 깨투야 아니 딜 잠바 닝제 디게 저서는 마음 발라 소소 산제 고마제 토바이나 안디데 추게 되지 당보 진투야다 딜라 편바 좀 투야게 지금 뭐 몰람 제 근데 제도는 그 대화지 샤도고도
So, you know, the kind of the refining of this kind of attitude that we are speaking on. Another example is that when we are traveling, you know, going long distances in the car, even short distances, you know, it's kind of like in Australia, we're very fortunate to encounter many sentient beings, animals and so on, kangaroos, beautiful birds, and etc. And that, you know, that we should not lose that opportunity to kind of, again, recognize these sentient beings and to kind of like make a dedication for them, especially those who have passed away, but even those who are not, and to kind of say, you know, when those who have passed away, or wherever they are. Cemetery. Again, if we visit a cemetery or yeah, those places where we are.
Visit Jonathan, visit Majone, Moretan to the Tongutua, Tongutua.
Ah, yes.
Some of the list down to now.
So it's, again, you're kind of seeing these kind of things like a cemetery on your journey. Again, to recall of to recite the Mani Padme Hum mantra, to make the dedication, you know, wherever any of these beings that are in that cemetery, wherever they are reborn in any of the 6 realms of existence, maybe they be liberated from such a rebirth, attain a precious human rebirth, meet with a qualified Mahayana teacher, and be able to proceed along the paths and grounds to enlightenment. And then follow that up with a mala of a Mani Padme Hum mantra.
Yeah, mala the page chitan khabo no more than go mani khashi tang tene samlo tang yang kuno tele che what is to
even you know, even to kind of leave the mala aside because you're driving, but you can do it mentally, of course, by maintaining your focus on the road and still reciting the Mani Padme Hum mantra like that. But also in terms of all the animals that we see, again in Australia, the kangaroos and the cockatoos and the galahs and so on, flying and all around us, who again bring the mind to kind of focus on that. What's the most I can take out of this particular situation, this moment? Again, to dedicate that wherever they are reborn in the 6 realms of existence, may they be freed from the sufferings there. Take a precious human rebirth. Meet with a qualified Mahayana teacher, be able to proceed along the paths and grounds to enlightenment. And again, the recitation of Om Mani Padme Hum, and to really seize every opportunity like that. And to understand also that when we are genuine in doing such a practice, we are not just creating the causes to attain enlightenment, but we are also creating the causes, a connection with those sentient beings that in some future time, when we are more kind of realized, and that we will be able to meet them in a different context and be more directly able to benefit, because we have made this connection at this time. And so that's far more beneficial than simply remarking on how cute the kangaroos are and how beautiful the colors of the birds are. This is we infuse those moments with far more meaning. I think it's extremely important.
Because the panto leg dewaji never in a panto does couple of dogs. What's that? Bena Marazon, but Jidenali in a number of ton de energy chicken, yamne chicken that chicken loma desert, quite got Dewa Yonda, the Jawama de what the Pembata, the Chedo Jabba the Ninja, and De La Pembata, the Nechedo, called Dewa shadow me, Luden Ladder, and got choked on the Dewa Yon to go Yonde. Delish Yongo, and Deli Yongo, that Deli Yonde, what happened to Sutua in a Daka to do in a Simja Shamasona, and what to get the Penatong to do in a condition, called Jabba the Ninja, and Dilla Pembata, Dilla Watch, Javaina. And what didn't leg Dewaji shower and a Mahoma Dilla Sugar Pemba to real Nuba Minda John Dick. Nuba Minda John Dick. And the cause of us was a cup to delay and a cheddar to buy Yabuji and Yamnature.
So this is also an important practice because, you know, it's very clear, isn't it, that, you know, we may have the urge to benefit sentient beings, but due to karma, we often don't have many direct opportunities to be able to engage in such benefit. Secondly, you can see that, you know, that the good relations that are existing between, say, guru and disciple that we are witnessing, that we know of in this life, these are not something that have happened accidentally. They have happened, again, through much more tenuous connections that have been made in the distant past. And so we have to recognize, you know, the importance of doing this now, and so that we can be more directly beneficial in the future. We have to kind of create the causes for that to happen by creating every possibility for connection that we have in this life. And therefore, being, you know, cognizant of those in cemeteries, of dedicating as we have, and reciting mantras for their benefit, is creating such a connection. Likewise, when observing the fauna of Australia as we kind of go back and forth, or wherever we are, in fact, that we are again recognizing the connection that we have, and the connection that we are refining in our dedication and in our recitation of mantra for their benefit. And so that will pay off in the future when we can actually be far more efficient within the life we have by making direct kind of benefit to direct sentient being in a different rebirth.
어떤 경우도 벤차자베나 상계 좀 된 게 아니 저 장주 선배 개와 쉐베 갑라 사마제 관라 아니 저 담을 류치네 담을 저거도 되게들 아니 부구다 되게 저거도 되게 담을 아니 류침바 담을 때네 아니 상계 좀 되게 대 장주 선배게 아니 장주 선배 다 가서데 냠네 제베 갑라 아니 편바다는 단다 아니 배 류침바디 아니 마오발라 nga sang ko ba 상계 때 아니 최고 뒤지 토마데 진토바쇼 편바장도 편바당도 아니 상계 좀 되다 제 가소래다 초고 두개 남았다는 평어도 아니 코로나데데 경 당연만 냠마도다 배 따모를 겨월련 되긴 게 따모다 따주 되게 나한테 차대도 와 안 된도 코 데들 배 잡아다 이제 슉슉게 아니 들라 편바시 당샤도 아니 코 디가소데 남시나 상계도 아니 딱딱 거기서 차트온 것도 왔다 제부 딱딱 미운 것도 와 어때요 다들 다 지금 소수가 편바당한테 지금 편도를 그래 저 뭐한테 제 직지도 그 제가 주본 것도 와 지금 다 산재게 남다들 되는 거 벨렌토가 제치로 와.
And so we can be assured of the kind of like the importance of such dedication and mantra recitation in this context, that there will be a result, as pointed out, for these practices, because of the example that is set by in the lives of the Buddha himself, when prior to enlightenment he's still on the Bodhisattva path. You will recall the famous account of him encountering a tigress with these 5 cubs who are starving, and the tigress is unable to feed them, and death is inevitable, and the Bodhisattva dedicates his own body as sustenance for these tigers, and with the dedication that through my giving of my own body in this particular case may this will create the cause for me to be able to pass on the nectar of Dharma to these sentient beings in the future. And indeed, so it passed that when the Buddha became enlightened and moved to the deer park in Varanasi, close to Sarnath, that these 5 cubs became the first 5 disciples of the Buddha there, and received that first teaching. And
저기 뒤에서 토마데 중에서 저기 뒤에서 토마 산제네 저기 뒤에서 토마데 왔다 코로나데를 제 코로나데 용단데 아니 냐마 따모 겨월랜데 부구데 겨월랜데 들도 왔다 간자 인데스 장주가 셈피다 버티게 데 아니 가서데 다 저거 탐바 좀네 아니 또 뭐아 제원도 그 럭치 보시 좀 거와.
So that may they receive the very first nectar of Dharma that I will teach, and so this became the first turning of the wheel of Dharma for these first 5. And so you can see, with a very profound, powerful mind of enlightenment, the generation of the mind of enlightenment, that such connection can be made to reach fruition, as pointed out in this particular story. And so we are in no doubt that these beneficial connections that we can make, these selfless connections that we make with all other sentient beings in whatever context, will lead to our having a far more meaningful connection with them in the future.
근데 이면서 나라도 단다 밀류도 상계의 템바데체 아니 최지당 또 심바데 그네 이내 구급심네 구급 근데 저라바이네 아니 구급도 심네 아니 가서 다 최줍투바 제치 최주서 이제 이제 3대 공잡 가서 최고 최게 다 가서데 현대제 대자 많이 받잖아 다 거기 근데 구급 중앙이네 아니
It also points out, isn't it, that because we have been born with this type of body, and we have met with the Dharma, we have met with the Buddhist teachings, that opportunity to practice for us is now everywhere, is obviously 24/7, and that we have, we don't need, necessarily to go into retreat or to spend all our time in meditation. That here, even out in the world, encountering sentient beings is all the opportunity we need to fulfill a kind of a great blessing of practice for us in our creating the causes for enlightenment.
남들이나 코에 교육이 튕겨 tum네. 그거 뭔가 코에 코알 못는 코에게 아니 가서 튕겨를 배줬던 거로 다 먼저 밀류래 산지게 땜받듯이 딜러 때는 다 그 코알 못는 코에도 많이 받잖아. 아니 코알에 타버 탐제 개매주 아니 못는 죽투에게 다 딜러 가서도 다 배줬던 거가 제치도.
It's also a very smart way of using our, being kind of, while we're in cyclic existence, we're using the actual conditions of cyclic existence to get out of cyclic existence, to attain liberation and the omniscient state of enlightenment. So it's the smart way to go. We'll leave it there for today. Còn again là kaso the
lama tuwa ombo tuna set up deba
laso
tuwe ombo set up de la mine tuwe tsanga tsar kache stata tuwe tsanga daita munu mamuni so askejo.
So we just bringing our minds to the figure in front of us, again reciting the name mantra of Shakyamuni Buddha.
Dayata Om Muni Mahamuni Swaha 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 Dayata Om Muni Mahamuni Swaha. What an edge attack comes to our root Kawaki when any Dungele Midway, never joining Yanjun Jacob, and then Yanjun. Gave a lot of calling never joining in Jung, gave a lotty, never join lotty, and a rangi jiwo, and Caso Pamatamaki Bachu, some such a touching a check, condition when you turn to a Tusan Yomani, so cottage over some time, and did it, you make him when Yaka Wajali Jusu, some such a Bemeton. The next Simja Tamjaka to Sanja Kobanu, no matter Toba some stuff. And did diving when Yaka Waji some such a Nimeto, Pandezawa, Lama was target to open the condition, Kusuto Mutu status, Tambeka, Nibeka, Sumeka, Temperature, Sandia Kumamato, but the chair so Kumasha. Hello.
Go on again, yeah, because of the own because of the chick tree gedura. The Tamala again. So we're now reflecting again in our dissolution of recreating a suitable seating arrangement on our own crowns for the coming of the Buddha to that place, and again through our reflecting on renunciation. It's a state of the cyclic existence being in the nature of suffering, wanting to gain definite emergence from there. And so we developed that mind of renunciation, which is symbolized by the lotus mandala disc seating. And then reflecting on the one who wants to attain that liberation, the I of, and indeed all internal and external phenomena forthwith, of looking within for that self, and really seeing how it is completely lacking any objective existence, and merely kind of focusing on the mere negation of the object of negation arising from that mind is the sun disk mandala seat. And similarly, reflecting on our aspiration to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings, that mind of enlightenment symbolized by the moon disk mandala seed. Then we recite the invocation verse thrice. O glorious and precious root guru, come take your lotus and moon seed placed here upon my head. Keep me safe in your kindness. Bestow on me the attainments of body, speech, and mind. This then is on the first recitation, the Buddha begins the journey towards our crown. And then after the second recitation arrives at our pre-prepared seat. And at the end of the third, is seated there steadfastly, and we are confident that they will be remaining with us there until we attain the state of enlightenment, and we can have a sense of joy in that.
Sanjay Gomato, Lama to be on with Son of Kawakum, and then because Yala to my mentor that you were putting a chance I want to choose what you are just a Tanja Chandu, such a patient, relation, the Sanjay Shantu, the Drogan, Namdashina, Idan Guru, and Amandala, Pania, Kaya means what is compassion.
We rejoice at that particular point, and again we bring to mind the respect and appreciation by offering 7-limb practices and the mandala practice at that point as well.
And then Yanjo compassion, and Casate comes on to Kawaki, and Tatuna Tatungele Matevade, then they invite and Chigi telling never showing Yanjo Kene. Kwana matana ta tami to san ngeba chu nyenjung kene ani dende ge lote ani rani de pama ta ma chaba chu so samchacha dene ta je semje thamje ge do sanje kuma tu gwin se nga de kawa to se jo da mani ba kan ta ran kal khacha kan sam de gal semsha ani dende ge khacha ka sang ngebe loti den tomba ngebe loti ani 그래서 다 닝배마 답제된 님의 증거 약하고 주소서 다 산제 고만 요원이도 마다 타마도 토바지 삼상의 로지 두바지 삼로다 근데 그 두바지 다의 증거 약하고 주소 반대서 라마도 다니가 비면서 같이 집에 거라 고소 도정고 조자도 손대체 손대 담배 가서페 손대 니바제 니베 가서슈 손대 수바제 수베 가서 텐도셔나 산제 고마마도 바 제소소 삼사체 아니 되네 와들체.
And so, and then we again bring our mind to focus on creating a suitable seating arrangement at our heart center. And again, we reflect on the state of this reality of cyclic existence, being in the nature of suffering and wanting to attain definite emergence, and that being symbolized at our heart center by a lotus mandala seat. And then the self, we're looking at, really looking for where the self exists in the body-mind continuum, and not finding it, and that a mere negation of the object of negation itself. Really, that I, that self, that lack of the inherent existence of that self, symbolized by the sun disk mandala seed, and then this aspiration we have to attain the state of enlightenment. I will attain the state of enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient being symbolized by the moon disk mandala seed. So again, having set up our seat, we make the invocation, the inviting verse for the Buddha. And so, glorious and precious root guru, come take your lotus and moon seat placed here at my heart. Keep me safe in your kindness. Bestow on me the attainments of body, speech, and mind. At the end of the first recitation, the figure of the Buddha on our crown moves down through our central channel. At the end of the second, the Buddha is seated, arrives at our pre-prepared seat. And at the end of the third, again, we have this sense of a real sense of confidence that the Buddha will remain there until we attain the state of enlightenment.
And then to Nimbama Tabjeti and Ma Katsun Namju Ningan they got the project of Sanga Kaja, the Tago to Dumbetsanga title, monument title, monument to the Koran language. Then Jesu Jame and Sunga Omarabasana, the Omarabasana, then Nangola Oma Yeta, my head of Shaman is what then got the Karasum you get. and the use ning usora lama shaja sing never the kusung tole we set to the rangachimone can't take while we set to the two one about the weather to watch that chibata and tarnishing to Kasoda. Then Takachote Lunga Yusun Sagatibata, Socho Majimalo, Misato, Twintamatu, Latin Lotas Chamataka, Cheva Kanamato, Rajan Kanamata, never condition Sayuba in there, but sit down, Sangamating or Tom, what they would. Nani doing something Kobashe, then a Sosa Tobacco, Chanjusima Lavadaco, Sanga Tabzidaco, Padamala Maguma, Kimber Lovelamo, Tosamas, Kunjosula Nivelle, Tabecho, Papa Gundelo Quarter, was Simja Nivelle, was died with the Shenja, Shenji, Jesso, Donna told it Tabegazo, Quarter, Yazum, Quarter, Yazum, Yedon, Swatch, condition about Janshi Dasu, some such. What did the Kobashe and the Lugan Nasa, simply. 동에 중식 코먼에 달롱 틀에 견다제 장시단 다 뉴도 산제 고마타월라 아니 교연 제시 탐에 나제 탐에 나제 교연 단제 단 가나 단제 다과라 저 바지 차도와 야고 시우 중수 소 고마시.
So then the petals of the lotus fold over and are sealed at the tip by 5-pronged white vajra. And they are surrounded by 3 mantras. The first in a clockwise direction is the name mantra of Shakyamuni Buddha. The second in an anti-clockwise direction is the mantra of Manjushri. And the third in a clockwise direction again is the mantra of dependent origination. And then the figure within the petals of the lotus begins to emanate light from the heart center, which permeates through and indeed through every cell of our body mind, from the crown of the head to the soles of the feet. And we are completely pulsating with purifying white light and purifying all negativities and obscurations that we have accumulated since beginning this time, including negativities of body, being killing, stealing, and sexual misconduct, of speech, being lying, harsh speech, and divisive speech, and idle gossip, and of mind, being malicious intent, covetousness, and wrong view. But also all negativities that we have accumulated in this life and in all previous lives, all vows that we have contravened, be the pratimoksha categories, or Bodhisattva category, or tantric categories, that they are completely and utterly purified. We have purified also all negativities that we have done through disrespecting our parents, up to our gurus, of abandoning the Dharma, of engaging directly in negativity ourselves, of inducing others to engage in negativity, or indeed rejoicing in the doing of negativity. That all these infractions are purified as well. That we have all kind of any illness, disease of the body acting as obstacles to our practice is completely cured and purified. And disturbances within the mind, mind illnesses also are purified. The imprints of those are purified. That the elements of the body are rebalanced. The channels, winds, and drops of the subtle body are again rebalanced, and that all of what we have, all of that which acts as a major impediment to the efficiency with which we can attain the state of enlightenment, namely ordinary appearance, of seeing things through ordinary appearance. This is again eradicated, and we're looking through all with a pure appearance. And after considering all this, we have this really beautiful feeling of having been completely purified. All of this, these inconducive elements to our being able to practice.
lama shajasan good lenji chicken social the lama shajasan kula jusu some social shindo to sim the nyelencha lama shajasan sim the lenji chicken chana no social send the lama shajasan tula jusu lange lunga is the lama shajasan kuzunto mo yeme jusu society dewa tongba de donis me shi jusu samsacha 아니 내디야 내가 그냥 탐졌잖아 라마 샤자스가 답에 신도 주소 삼사차 다 라마 샤자스가 꿀 주고 구소도 뭐 예매 주어데 될래 다 나라라 심해봐 삼라다나 나라라 심해봐 삼라다 동반이게 답에 깨답자 나라라 심해봐 삼라다나 라마 샤자스 구소도 뭐 예매 주어 투갈래 라마 샤자스 뭐 빠도 매봐 주네 아니 탐송게 셈자 탐절라 안데 차상와 저 라마 샤자스가 주어라 때네 팀발레 때는 대다 단적에는 그래서 대다 단적 라마샤자스가 구촌도 뭐 예매 주소스 대다가 내 단적 라마샤자스가 다베신도 주소 선서 다 야고 시부터 심지어 탐적 산제 구마 쪽에서 다 니만 데른 쪽도서 다 심지어 산제 살고 도서 섬을 가고 심지어 탐적 라마샤자스가 구촌도 뭐 예매 주바 대체도 수수 겨와 가주바 대 아니 쪽에 소소도 잡아가 아니 유대는 좀 뒤자면 또 팔자 잡래 선서 디 대화 대외 동바 대도니스의 시켜서 소원들을 보셔.
So then we kind of then through the combination of my own more subtle wind acting as the substantial cause, together with the body of the Buddha acting as the cooperative conditions, my own body is transformed into the enlightened body of the Buddha. And then through the combination of my own more subtle mind acting as the substantial cause, together with the mind of the Buddha acting as the cooperative conditions, my own mind is transformed into the enlightened mind of a Buddha. And therefore, my whole body, speech, and mind now are seen as completely inseparable from the body, speech, and mind of the Buddha. And this is something that's really wonderful. Again, I rejoice in this. This transforms into a bliss which combines with voidness, and I rejoice in the non-dual wisdom of non-dual bliss and voidness. And then through seeing myself as inseparable as from the body, speech, and mind of an enlightened being, and contemplating the fact that this recognition, this I that I'm acting from, lacks any inherent existence, I send out light rays. Prior to that is also, I have the understanding that the place that I am in is completely purified of all faults and becomes the enlightened abode of an enlightened being. So now then, sending out light rays from my own heart center, equal in number to all the sentient beings in all the 6 realms of existence, and that light then absorbing through the crowns of all those sentient beings. And they are kind of purified of all fault and arise with the qualities of an enlightened being equal to the qualities of the body, speech, and mind of an enlightened being. Likewise, the place that they are in is purified of all fault and transforms into the enlightened abode of an enlightened being. This is something really wonderful. And again, I rejoice. Today is the day that I've made this happen. I realize that the leading of all sentient beings to the state of enlightenment, the causes that have facilitated this, and myself as the agent of such causes, all lack any objective existence and are merely imputed by thought. And this again produces this sense of voidness and bliss, and I abide in the wisdom of non-dual bliss and voidness.
다디지도 전대지 용어를 랑산제 고마토발라 돈이 니지 임부치게 람줄라 마치와 타면 또 다들의 임바이자 다 랑게 아니 지 대기 대화 중에 동해 중앙에 나와 있는 개와 있는 시와 있는 컨텐츠 그 상해 컨텐츠 바이네 돈이 니제 닝고지가 람큐라 계획에는 아니 튕겨를 좋아쇼 스타 뭐지래 다 디지널 링부르 마토바 된데지 뚝뚝해지 다 용거로 와
So, of course, we are only acting at the level of imagination here. This is not something that can happen as easily as that. Yet, we take a nod from what we have been visualizing and make a sincere dedication that actually I can bring this to happen, to make happen, to me become manifest as quickly as possible. And in so doing, may I be granted all of the conducive conditions that will support that and eradicate all inconducive conditions that will that may act as obstacles to that path, that I will be able to use every moment, every cell of my being to keep myself reminded of the path, and to be able to use every opportunity that is there for me at all times, to whether I'm happy or sad or somewhere in between, whether I'm sick, I'm well, or whether I'm on the verge of death, it doesn't matter, that I will always keep in mind that I will develop every single opportunity to create the causes to attain that state of enlightenment as quickly as possible. so tamboge나 gozo the one and
Yeah.
거기 fig tree bro.
Yeah.
네 코란게 tambo 인게 돈에 and shaking gozo.
last